Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Courtney Cronin up here for rookie mini camp. Day one is finished, Courtney, and it was definitely rookie mini camp. A little bit of a surprise. We got to stay at practice. That was kind of cool. I'm not going to lie to you. I was fully expecting when 11:05 hit, all right, get out.
Yeah, it was a thing that happened. That's how I describe every rookie camp I've ever covered. Outside of the one in 2022 where it was like way too much contact.
Yeah,
you remember
yeah.
Matt Eberflus's first rookie mini camp was, well, talk about a tone setter. I don't know what the tone was being set today or how it was being set because they were moving at like half speed, but that's by design because you're throwing a lot of information at a bunch of guys who will not be making the roster, but are going to help your draft picks, who are going to help your first year players that are there and help build out this 90-man roster.
Yeah, listen, there's not much to take from today, but I do think there was some interesting pieces on some draft picks that we saw. I mean, Luther Burden got out there, and contrary to what I guess everyone is deciding to say about him now that he's a Chicago Bear, he did practice and looked like he was fairly engaged, so that was fun, and looked good out there today. We saw a little bit from Kyle Manungai. I think the story of this practice, by the way, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, lead a 5-star review, y'all know what to do. The story of this practice for me is Eric Bieniemy. Seeing him day one,
loud,
hearing him day one, feeling the intensity. We probably were 4 feet away from him. I mean, some of the things he said on the field to, I think, number 22, Grubb.
Yep, and number 35.
And number 35. Running back.
There's 3 of them that are there, including Kyle Manungai. And, you know.
Can't repeat some of it, we'll say.
Yeah, I think that there was the build you up moments, but also the coaching moments.
Yes.
I won't say like break you down, but there was, I think it was 35 who was sent out on a wheel route. He threw up one hand and Bieniemy said something like, we catch it with 2 hands here or something along those lines. But then one of the equipment guys overthrew one of the running backs. He said, hey, good route. Like hearing those coaching points in the first day of this thing happening shows you Eric Bieniemy is coming in exactly who he's been in every stop that he's been a head coach. He's an intense guy. He's a loud guy. He'll get out there and start demonstrating what these backs need to do. And, he's been doing it a long time, has a pretty nice track record of success to show. So I imagine for a young player coming in, when you're told to clean up your footwork and the head coach is running backs coach is telling you exactly how he wants it done, then you're going to listen to that. And he's got like proof of concept to show what these guys need to do to be successful. Now, rookie minicamp, you're not in pads, you're not moving. The tempo is what it is right now. It's slower. So there's a lot of teaching moments I think we're seeing out there happening. But, we did hear that from Eric Bieniemy himself that he's going to coach these guys hard, that he's going to set the tone from day one. And, today is day one and the tone has been set from him that there's no free lunch when it comes to this running back group.
And he took no moment off. I thought that was the interesting part. Not to say any of these coaches did, but we were just so close to Bieniemy.
Sure.
There's one play where, and I guess to compare it to last season, right, and being out here, there was one play where, I don't know who 35 is. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I know.
There's
3 running backs
I've
here.
Got the
one
list
is Manungai. One is a tryout guy. Then I believe another might be, I don't know, is there a UDF way?
22 is Grubb. I don't know which one 35 was, but his foot ends up hitting the bag.
Sure.
And it's the moment that stood out to me in practice. He said, yo, the bag ain't effing moving. Pick your feet up. And it was such a small thing, right? There was a couple moments where he ran outside and he's like, where are you going? Get back in line. But it was that right after that, okay, I'm going to get after you. But now let me show you how to do it. Let me stand here. We're going to show you how to get the footwork chopping, where we need to see you at, what the expectation is. Again, there's not a ton you can take from rookie minicamp. But we always hear these are the moments where the culture is set. These are the moments where things are built. It doesn't feel like this coaching staff is taking these moments for granted, which to look at last season, right? Not to say that it felt like they were taking it for granted, but it definitely didn't feel like this intensity on day one.
And I think Ben Johnson stressed that too, that rookie minicamp is the very beginning for guys in their NFL careers, but this is also the beginning for this coaching staff to get together, to learn from each other. How are we coaching these guys? How does my energy need to be received? How do I need to come across? Because I was trying to follow around Ben Johnson with my binoculars and it was a little difficult.
It's hard to find him
because, Matt Eberflus never wore a hat, had his black Wayfarer sunglasses on, a very distinct look. So I could always find where the head coach was. Ben Johnson's got a ball cap and a Bears Navy hoodie that looks like everybody else out there that's either in like your support staff, your equipment staff, trainers, other coaches, front office. So he blended in and you don't hear him. Like, I think that's going to be the most intriguing thing outside of the roster and what it looks like for the offseason and what happens rookie minicamp, OTAs. What does a Ben Johnson actual practice feel like? And, some similarities, like there was music playing, like you just try to find like the little things today to be like, what does it look like compared to last year? But it wasn't like you were hearing Ben Johnson yelling at guys or, really trying to get the juice up. And we do have that perception of him that he's a very high energy guy. The way that he talks about, what the message that he's trying to give off to the team and things that he said in the offseason, you didn't feel that. And I don't think it's like a bad thing. I think it's just kind of like he's trying to figure out what is my personality on the field as a head coach. He even said, with the whistle, getting to whistle plays dead. That's something he's going to have to learn how to do, just how to execute something as simple as that and how he wants to be in those moments, which, it's a learning experience, but like better learn now than, you're coming back late July and you're still trying to figure out how you want the coaches to coach. It's important to get the stuff out of the way in the meantime.
Yeah. And the one thing we saw today, I think we saw it fairly consistently from all the coaches that at least I was near when you could see them, was if a mistake was made, it was corrected that moment. It was not, all right, let's get back in here. Let's do this again. It was, you were seeing these guys. And I think to the Ben Johnson point, Ben Johnson's letting his coaches find their voice with these players. These are rookies. These are all position coaches trying to figure out, okay, they're in a new role, right? Antoine Randall now isn't just the wide receivers coach. You're also the assistant head coach. Al Harris is taking a different step and still the DB coach, but, taking a different step in the role that he has in totality. So everybody else has to find their own way in this situation. I actually like how Ben Johnson did that today, where he wasn't the one trying to be showy and outward and like, oh, this is my team, my practice, we're running it my way. He was letting his assistant coaches essentially run things. And then when everybody came together, that's when you really were like, to be honest with you, Courtney, it was the only time I could identify Ben Johnson.
Sure.
There were a couple of times where I saw somebody in a blue hoodie run down the field and I was like, is Hogue on the field? Like, what is that, Hogue or Ben Johnson? Like, I don't know who we're looking at here. So, from the practice, was there anybody that really stood out player-wise in your mind?
Well, watching Ozzie Trapillo, so he worked with the left tackles today, and so like they broke him up into position groups where for a while it was like left tackle, left guard, center. You guys are over here, right tackle, right guard, and then the centers would flip. I think it's important that, that's an observation of a notable thing that he's doing because he played a lot of right tackle in college. He's naturally a right tackle. He knows more right tackle, like all the things he expressed to us afterwards of the extra work that he was trying to get in at left tackle was for moments like this. So it wouldn't feel like, oh, I haven't played this position in a long time. I've got to flip my brain. I've got to do everything from a different side of my body. He was getting extra reps from what he told us at Boston College after practice just to stay sharp there. So then to see him, I mean, these are bag drills. They're not doing anything. They're not going to be doing anything contact wise for months. You can't really tell a guy's bend. I know that we like to be like, all of those things. You won't be able to tell any of that until they're in pads and if they're actually playing at pad level, but it's fundamental stuff of, just watching. This guy's really 6'8". Like he's huge. And so seeing how high he's playing right now when it might be the medicine ball drill or just blocking drills, like that, knowing that's my point of reference when they get in pads. I'm going to remember, okay, like how does that look? Because right now they're just figuring out where do you need to strike on the defensive lineman on the bag. But I thought it was, interesting to watch the size that they've brought in because there's a couple other guys, the guy from BYU, Keim, Brandon Keim, I forget like what his first name is. Forgive me for that, but like he's a big dude too. I think he's 6'6" or 6'7". Like they've got a lot of size there that I think for a younger player that'll help you. If there's other guys who are struggling to to stay low and all of that and to anchor from your hips, all the coaching points that we heard them talking about today. I think it'll be good being around other players who are going through it just like he is.
I love what Ozzie said too, and I don't know if you have, Courtney, but I've never heard anybody give an answer like this on switching to the left side, and I think it does. Waddle kept sitting here, and he was like, Ozzie just seems smart, doesn't he? And it was when he talked about switching to the left side, it was almost like I have to be so much more focused that I'm better at it because of it. Because it's not natural for me. It's not muscle memory for me. I can't just go out there and go, oh, I need to jump to the left side. And they had him pretty much on the left side all the entire practice.
And it wasn't like these were all like individual drills. We didn't, you're not seeing all 5 go through anything together. And I mean, it's day 1. Maybe by the end of the weekend, we'll see what else they want to incorporate. But from an individual standpoint of just like get the technique down, it seems like he was at least keeping up with what the coaches were asking him to do and taking some of the coaching points.
No, 100%. And it just, the explanation of like, I have to be a tactician with this is the only way I'm going to get it. I've just never heard anybody explain it that way. Usually we hear guys go, yeah, you know, you just got to kind of flip your brain around and it is what it is.
Well,
and eventually you'll
get it. It's that much harder than some people are like willing to say like, oh, like just move from right to left. Like, you know, swing tackles do it all the time. Like, no, it's really hard to be, if you're so proficient at one position and you've started 24 games the last 2 years at right tackle, naturally you're going to have to think more. And obviously they say, you know, you want to play freely. You don't want to play thinking. I think the offensive line, that probably goes out the window because you need to play. You need to hear what the calls are. You need to know what the guy next to you is doing. And, you know, if they end up liking him at left tackle, you know, might as well get your mistakes out of the way now, but also get the reps down so you feel comfortable that when you do have a defensive line, you know, might not be going at you full speed, but, you know, simulating what it's going to be like in a real game, that you feel comfortable getting, that you don't have any of like the, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do sort of moments here. Like at least you've been through it enough to when you are able to go full speed or close to it, it feels more natural than like, I feel like I'm just starting out here. I've got a long way to go to get comfortable.
And even the work he talked about putting in college on after practice and stuff like that. I was working on the left side because I wanted to make sure that I was versatile. I think that he's one of those players that when you talk to him, when you see him on the field, it feels like I have to do everything technically in this order and do it right because it's going to be right when it's on the field. And that does excite me about Ozzie. One player that does have the blood boiling for me a little bit here, Courtney. I know everybody's going Luther Burden, but I watched Kyle Monungai get out there and look like a pretty good pass catcher. Now, again, this is all on air. Everyone breathe. None of this means anything. But the one thing we really didn't see him get a ton of opportunity to do in college, it looked almost natural at today.
Yeah, and his footwork seemed like, I mean, I think you take away from rookie minicamp that, like, or what you take away is probably, you know, the receivers and the running backs. Like the guy,
they get a lot of one-on-one opportunities.
And so it's a good chance to see, all right, does he have clean footwork in the drills? Seemed like that was, you know, a box he was able to check today. And even when they were sending the running backs out on some routes, whether it was the quarterbacks that were here throwing it, whether it was some of the support staff, equipment people, whoever, no noticeable like gaffes. And I mean, it is not something that he's done all that often, but they're trying to get these guys reps at things they're not comfortable with just yet. And I would say that he looked probably as good as you would expect doing that day one in a brand new offense where they're, you know, they just started installing this stuff with these rookies last night when they did a walkthrough. So to take it from that walkthrough to an even longer walkthrough, you know, today, it was basically all practice was. I think that was, you know, it was a good sign.
I try to put it in the mindset of what if it was a different player, right? What if we were watching Ashton Genty do that or Omari Hampton do that? People would be losing their minds.
Have different expectations
today because
of like, we don't know yet. Like, are they done at that position? Certainly doesn't feel like it on paper, but now's their chance to figure out what are we missing at running back.
And with the news that Chubb, now I don't know if the Bears are going to go after Nick Chubb, but with the news that it seems like Cleveland's out on Nick Chubb at this point, which, by the way, shocking news that you drafted 2 running backs. You were going to try and get something done. Okay. But it seems like they're out on Nick Chubb. Could that be somebody the Bears are going to look to bring in? How does that fit in with Kyle Monungai here? I don't know if that's all the case, but like looking at where this running back room is now, there's a clear want for someone else to step up in that running back room outside of Roschon Johnson, outside of DeAndre Swift, probably because of what we saw last season. And I think Kyle Monungai, it's almost like because he went in the 7th round, people forget, oh, he was one of the best running backs in the Big Ten this season. He was basically dealing with 8 in the box, just like Ashton Genty was, because there was no passing game at Rutgers this season. So I like a lot of what we saw out of him, and I like the mindset that he comes with.
Yeah, and he'll have an opportunity over the next couple of weeks when they get the whole roster together. Like, we're all going to be watching the running back position. We're going to be watching who takes reps where, which again, like I think some of that is subjective at this
100%.
point. But how does he learn from DeAndre Swift? How does he learn from guys who have been in the building longer than him? Because he does have a lot of experience. And especially the last 2 years, like leading the Big Ten, and I believe it was attempts last year. Leading the
246, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of reps under his belt, and he led the Big Ten in combined rushing 2023 and 2024. So adding some other things to his toolbox, more or less, will be what you hope to gain knowledge of by the time they hit mandatory minicamp and then they leave for summer. So when you come back, it doesn't feel like, all right, well, we still need to figure out what this running back room looks like before we go out and sign a veteran, or before we go out and trade for somebody, if that was the case. So it's early, and I get people like want to have answers on it, but you will not throughout the spring, because that's a position too. You can't really tell how hard someone's running when they're not in pads.
Yeah. And I think it goes with all of the players. Luther Burden was exciting today. Again, there's not this overwhelming, he's the answer. How the heck did he fall to the second round? Even when I asked Ben Johnson about it, he was like, the draft was weird. I don't know what to make of this draft. But when I look at the one catch, I guess you can take away and say, wow, this guy's got some interestingly special talent, is I believe it was Austin Reed threw a ball that basically should have been in the dirt, and he reached down snatched it up. And ended up getting a catch off of that. And I remember all of us just sitting over there going, did he just catch that? I can't tell if he caught it. He confirmed that he caught it in the press conference. But like, that was the one play today where it was like, okay, you may actually have something special there. And then, of course, on air, his routes look great. I will say this, and I'll go back to last season kind of with how Keenan Allen looked versus some of the young guys that he was working with. You can tell there's a difference. And that's how I felt watching Luther Burden with the rest of the wide receiver group. This guy's supposed to be one of those top guys.
For sure. He's a second-round pick, and he thought he should have been a first-round pick. So now's your chance to go out there and make every rep count. That doesn't mean it has to be mistake-free or that you won't have some slip-ups, but go out there, be polished, be a good teammate. Like the things that Ben Johnson said at the draft about how many mouths there are to feed on this offense, this is a prime opportunity for Luther Burden to prove, like, I can still be an effective member on offense when I'm not number one in the progression, when the ball's not coming my way. And, that message, he said, is being preached to the rookies too, because a lot of these guys aren't going to make the roster. There's 8 draft picks. There will be a couple guys that are signed from the rookie minicamp tryout to be part of the 90-man roster. You have your UDFAs, but chances are majority of these players will not be a part of the 53-man roster at the end of August, but they could be on the practice squad. They could have an opportunity to, if they get cut, to come back. And Ben Johnson's going to be looking for the players who still have great body language, still are doing and executing. They're running, full speed. They're not taking off at the stem of their route. Like, they're actually like executing it, even if they know they don't have a chance of getting the ball. And like, I think for Luther Burden, what he said at the draft kind of struck me. Like, a lot of targets didn't come his way. He wasn't their leading receiver at Missouri last year. Might he have been their best? Very clearly he was.
100%.
But he said, that's the stuff that prepared me. I wasn't for the NFL. Like, I wasn't necessarily getting the targets I wanted, but how do you make do with what you have? So to me, I think he's got a leg up just in terms of like the mindset Ben Johnson wants his skill guys to have. Luther Burden's already kind of gone through it in his last season at Missouri. So, those are the things I think when you are, that much, you stand out because you are that much better than some of the other receivers that they have a part of rookie minicamp. Now, what happens when he gets around DJ Moore and Rome Odunze? Like, he doesn't seem like somebody who wants to back down from a challenge. I'm excited to see what that competition looks like, because I think he strikes me as somebody who wants to, he said, like, I want to prove that I'm the best. Like, all of these superlatives that he's been, that he throws out as targets for himself. All right, well, you're going to be around a guy who has a $110 million contract and a guy who was drafted 9th overall. How does that make you better? Yeah. This is the table setting for him this weekend, when you are around guys that aren't going to have the future more likely than not, that you're going to have. Like, how you handle that will then, I think, set him up to, like, the what he looks like going into OTAs, of like mentally where he's at, of like, okay, I belong, I can do this. But like, how you handle competition when the competition may not be as stiff to where it's going to be pretty significantly stiffer.
Well, listen, I think just the mindset that he's coming in with, right? You heard him talk at the podium. Probably the best thing we heard at the podium today was him go, everybody who was ahead of me is going to pay. I mean, I don't know what that means. Like, if there's a plot in place, but like the
motivation.
The motivation that he has right now, it reminds me of guys that we have seen be greats in the league. And usually, right, we've seen the exercise a million times at this point. Can you name everybody who's drafted ahead of you? I'll bet you he probably already has that memorized.
At least the receivers.
You know what I mean? So, like, I think that just having that mindset coming in with already being the player that he is, already being the player that, and I hear all the nonsense and stuff like that. When we talk to his receiver coach, he kind of refuted pretty much all of that. It seems like in day one, he is kind of this guy that he was explained to be. With that mindset, though, of like, I'm going to prove I should have been the top guy. He definitely should have been above Matthew Golden, which I'm glad, shout out the Packers. But to me, I think that's the thing that gets me the most excited about what this young man's career is going to be here in the beginning.
It's not shying away from anything, right? Like, this is somebody who, was the highest rated recruit maybe ever, or like biggest recruit. I'm sure there've been other 5-star guys, 4-star, whatever he was in high school, but like, he's the biggest recruit ever to go to Missouri, to have a great season in 2023, and then to have, about a third of your production gone the next year, but still be a second-round pick. I think he takes some of that stuff personally. Now, you don't want it to take it so personally that it causes you to make mistakes, causes you to play tight, causes you to not be yourself on the field. It seems just from jury's still out on that, but how he uses that, like how he funnels that into whether it's motivation, whether it's good motivation or toxic motivation, like that's where. Like the whole chip on your shoulder thing, it works when you're not making it your whole identity and your whole personality. Like, just go out and play. Like, don't worry about who was drafted in front of you. Like, clearly the Bears really liked you enough to draft you 39th overall. You're a second-round pick. You didn't have to wait that long. I appreciate what he said about using, trying to prove everybody wrong. Everybody says that because it's the right thing to say.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you look like you don't care about competition. Whatever. We'd be talking about him if he had a laissez-faire attitude about it. Like, we'd be talking about, I don't know if this guy's got it in him.
Yeah.
What he's saying should make Bears fans excited because he is somebody that is an explosive receiver, the yards after the catch, all of the things that made him one of the top draft picks. Because 39 picks in, like, that's still one of the top picks in the draft.
100%. Yeah, you're a top 100 pick. You're
257 of these. Like, like you're one of the top picks in the draft. So how he channels that, and how, I'm really curious to see what Ben Johnson and what some of the older receivers come away with. Because I remember going back last year when Rome was a rookie, and we were talking with Keenan Allen, and Keenan had been 11 years in, DJ 6-7 years in at that point. Their impressions of Rome when they first got here, like just how mature he was. And what Keenan was saying about, like, I wish I was like that. I would never, he was far ahead of me mentally as a rookie than when Keenan was coming into the league early 2010s. I want to see what these guys say about Luther Burden, like how he comes across, because that's usually a way to sense, like, type of guy that's here every single day that we don't get to see by how the teammates initially, when they don't really even know him yet, perceive him.
Yeah,
how they express that.
100%. And I mean, listen, Luther Burden was doing everything in practice today. I think that also goes into the kind of mindset that of the player that he is. Wherever you need me, coach. Shamar Turner says it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part you can feel the excitement off of Shamar Turner, where he's like, wherever they want to put me, the edge, I play quarterback. Wherever I'm in the NFL, like, he's still just so excited about it. Luther Burden doesn't have that same excitement. It may not come off that way in the press conferences, but then you see him on the special teams drills. You see him, in 7-on-7. You see him doing some things for blocking and some running drills, right? Like, he's doing whatever he's needed to do, and I think that's going to be exciting to see that continue. I got to give a shout out to one guy who I guess is probably not a guy that people were really looking for, but he made some really nice catches in the 7-on-7 drills that they were doing. Was John Jackson, of course, Caleb Williams' guy. Mm-hmm. I thought that it, just made some really nice catches, showing I'm a step ahead. I should be on this team, and I like the guys who are coming in with that mindset. So
yeah, I mean, this is a chance for those first-year players, the guys like Austin Reed, who was a practice squad quarterback for this team. John Jackson, who was, practice squad receiver for this team, to be able to have those bodies here to then, like, prove, like, can I be back on the practice squad this year? Is there a way that maybe you crack the depth chart? And I know that fans want to know in the offseason, all right, what's the competition looking like?
Was the depth chart thing weird, though? Did you see that? Where they put the depth chart out,
like,
but it's just blank?
I think some other teams have done that
have
too.
They? Okay.
Obviously, we know based on contracts, there's certain guys who
Caleb Williams will be the starting quarterback
into their spots, but that could be a motivational tactic thing for Ben Johnson to like not have teams aren't required to do it by any stretch at this time of the year. Like during the off season, they have their unofficial depth chart, and even during the week, they have that just to show kind of like who's where. It's league wide. They have to do it, but I think what Ben is saying in trying to get through to guys when he talks about this competition that we're bringing in, it's going to push certain people like. They wanted accountability, right? Yeah. Like, isn't that the number one thing that they kept preaching last year?
Yeah.
Is this not a way of holding players accountable, of not making you feel like your spot is safe, even though in theory for a lot of players, like DJ Moore, he's safe? Like,
well, I'll be honest with you,
those
Courtney.
Sorts of things.
And I do agree with you. I think DJ Moore is safe, but what I will say is that's the part that's going to be interesting. If guys aren't living up to what the standard is,
or living up to their
will
contract.
You actually have the power or the cojones, whatever you want to call it, to say we're putting somebody else in because you're not getting the job done? And we didn't see that last season, which I think where a lot of this stuff stems from with the Nate Davis situation, where it was like he's not even practicing. When he is out there, he looks horrible. We probably should put someone else in there.
Yeah.
And the whole situation was he's making $10 million. He's playing.
Yeah. No, I get that. And it's a good example. It's a recent example of something that's not going to fly, or at least how Ben, I don't know. I mean,
how it comes off. That's what it seems like.
It comes across as that's not something on my watch that's going to happen, that like the other coaching staff may have let that get like, let them get away with that. But it's also the front office too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of decisions that are made by people upstairs that like are not in line with coach. Like that doesn't always like line up to where the coaching staff and the front office have the same agenda. I think what Ben Johnson's trying to make sure is that they do have the same agenda, that it's not an issue going forward. But I'll say, like, just on the note of DJ, because I thought about it. I know Jeremy Fowler had his intel piece just about the George Pickens trade, and that, like, whether he's available or not, a receiver like DJ Moore, when you have a crowded receiver room, like that's a guy that a team like Pittsburgh would at least call.
Yeah,
he tried to position it that way.
Yeah.
They just paid him a big contract. I highly, highly, highly doubt that would ever be something the Bears would entertain. But I keep thinking back to like what Ben said after the draft about like certain players that are going to get pushed in all of this. And, I think that DJ got the, people tried to make a lot out of his body language last year and like facial expressions and maybe like, walking off the field in Arizona.
Yeah.
That type of shit that won't fly anymore.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff because of how deep this, the skill positions are here, that those are the sorts of things. Like, we know you're really talented. We know that you might not have been in the wrong on all of these things, but like the repeated acts like that can't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's, there's more competition in this room, where there was a lot of competition last year, but it almost felt like they didn't really know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So now you get a chance to see, do guys, like, how do guys react to that? Like, you've got some talented rookies that are coming in that are going to be fighting for playing time. And you as a veteran, doesn't mean that just because you're a veteran, you're guaranteed to get the same number of targets, of offensive percentage, like you're on the field, all of that.
Yeah, and I think we saw that with Ben in Detroit. Ben's going to go with the hot hand. It's going to go with the guy that's open.
But like, how do you react if you're not that guy? Like, that's
100%.
Like he as a play caller, I think one thing that's really stood out to the Bears is how cerebral he can be to like, hey, I know what the ball isn't coming your way. How can I keep you locked in? Because that's important, so you don't have guys that are checked out.
Yeah,
like, because that could kill like an entire, if your quarterback, like if he's going through his progressions and guys are covered, and the guy that doesn't think he's getting the ball because it never went that way in practice isn't ready for it because it's on an emergency option, that person becomes the progression that you go to, and they're not ready, like you're going to find yourself off the field. It sounds like, just from how Ben Johnson talks about it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the way that it should be. It shouldn't. The one thing J-Mac always says, and when we had Briggs on, he would always say, if you got to motivate yourself, if a coach has to motivate you to get up to go do your job, you shouldn't be on this field.
Sure.
And so the hope is that there's not going to have to be a ton of motivating or, hey, come on, guys, we got a block here. Let's make sure we're all in on this play, that these guys just kind of get, okay, this is the direction this team is going. Because I don't think that was the situation that we had here last year, and that's why all of those guys are gone. But was there anything else stood out to you before we get out of here?
Yeah, Shamar Turner was interesting just on how he's asked about, can you play on the outside? How comfortable are you playing edge? Are they asking you to play edge? Look, he's a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I think he'll be playing defensive tackle. But I talked to him before he came in to talk to the group, just kind of about what this process has been like. And we know the perception of him is violent player, high energy player, high motor, like almost like too much.
Yeah.
He said today, like in walkthrough, that like he had to tone it down a little bit. Like some coaches were like kind of like, whoa, like you're doing 25 walkthrough reps and then another 25 walkthrough reps. Like you're gonna get tired. He was getting winded. And there was a time where he knocked himself on the ground. And the coach was like, yo, like great. Love the energy, love the enthusiasm, all of that, but like pull back a little bit. And he's got to like, now you need to learn how to practice.
Yeah.
I know that sounds simple in theory. Some of the things that they're running today, and I even asked him about like what the coaches were going through in walkthrough. I was like, does it feel all brand new, or there's certain things that are like, oh, I knew that from college. And there is some of that, but now you've got to, once you get around the vets, you have to practice the way that they practice. So like through osmosis, you learn, okay, Grady Jarrett does it this way. I should probably, like, he's been very successful in the league. I should probably do it that way.
Right.
But also knowing when to step on the gas, when to pull back so you can be at your best. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing, just knowing how intense he is and how he comes across to us. Like even he realizes it's something that in practice, like, well, like I gotta chill a little bit. I gotta like know when to step on it and when to just kind of back off.
And Yurko talked about that with Ariante Irsay pre-draft, and he was like, it's easier to turn it down than to turn it up.
Sure.
So it's a lot better for you to have a player that you got to come in and be like, bring it down a little bit. I need you at 80% of what you are right now. And you can feel that from Shamar. Just even in the press conference, he's just like, I'm just happy to be here. Like, I'm so glad that I play in the NFL for the Chicago Bears. So love to see it. I love this is day one. In theory, football's kind of back. We saw balls in the air and catches being made. So day two tomorrow, I'll be back up here, and then Courtney will be back up here, and we'll see what more we have. And hopefully this continues to be a very healthy, very safe, very fun rookie mini camp. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Bear down, one love, peace.